Aloha and welcome to Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. I'm Keli Akina with the Grassroots Institute. My guest today knows everything about business and everybody in business here in Hawaii because that's her job. She's the president CEO of the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii, a venerable organization that's been around for well over a century. And now, as its new leader, is taking the organization and hopefully the economy in Hawaii to new heights. Please welcome Sherry Menor-McNamara to our program today. Sherry, aloha.
Aloha. Thank you for having me here.
Well, I'm so glad you're able to make it on board. You're in the midst of a busy legislative session, giving advice to our legislators.
Right. Actually, conference committee meetings ended last Friday at 6 p.m.
Okay.
So there's a lot of flurry of activity during that up until then.
It's a busy time.
It is.
When things may be alive or not.
Right. And tomorrow, the legislature votes on the bills, and on Thursday, they adjourn. As you know, the Chamber is very active at the legislature.
That's right. And in fact, maybe a little later on we can get into some of that legislative agenda of the Chamber. But, you know, you are new to the organization, not new to business in Hawaii, but how do you like coming in? You've been around, what, 6 months or so?
Right. I started in my new position, President and CEO, since September of last year, but I've actually been with the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii for 8 years.
All right.
Primarily in their business advocacy department. I was the head lobbyist and advocate at the legislature, as well as in other levels of government, including the federal and the county. But our primary focus is on the state level.
And your background as an advocate for the organization and for business in Hawaii is very appropriate to your role as CEO, because Chamber of Commerce is supposed to be the voice of business in Hawaii.
Yes, we are the state Chamber of Commerce, and we are the voice of business. We do play a leading role at the legislature in ensuring that legislation that impacts business is being heard. I mean,
that's right.
We're able to pass bills that support business and hopefully stop bills that are bad for business.
Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, the Chamber's at least 150 years, maybe even older than that. I know you wouldn't know personally, but how old is it?
We're a 164 years old organization.
That's incredible.
The second oldest chamber west of the Rockies.
How about that? And you know, few people realize what a dynamic business environment our state was, or Hawaii was, in the 19th century. And so you carry forward a lot of that heritage.
Yes. In fact, we have a very detailed archive, and it's been interesting going back to see what they've done and how they shaped Hawaii's economy.
How about that? Just, you know, a quick question.
Sure.
I'm wondering, was Charles Reed Bishop a member of or ever attend functions of the Chamber of Commerce?
You know, I'm going to have to dig deeper, but I'm sure it was. There were many of the leading business leaders were part of the chamber.
Right. I can't imagine how someone of that stature, after whom Bishop Street is named, now your address,
right,
wasn't. You know, what do you think has been the major value of the chamber here in Hawaii? You have 1,000 members at least, or came in with 1,000. I'm sure there are many more now that you've joined, now that you've become CEO. What does the chamber do?
So we have 1,000 member companies. Our goal, actually we have a very ambitious goal, is to get 2,000 member companies by 2016.
Well,
so we're just talking about a year and a half. And we're currently we have a membership drive campaign going on. And we also have our own campaign with our board of directors. And so we've been trying to be more active with that so that we can get more members and reach our goal. And why is it important to get 2,000 members? Well, one, numbers speak. The bigger our membership, the more we can do.
That's important.
And it's going to be important to shape a thriving economy, and that's why we feel it's important to get more members on board so they can be a part of the process in helping shape our business climate.
Now, one of the things you do, as you've mentioned already, is weigh in on legislation.
Yes.
Laws are made all the time that sometimes help business, sometimes hurt business. Overall, in the state of Hawaii, how do you think we're doing as a business-friendly climate?
Well, I think overall we still have a lot of work to do. As you know, we're constantly ranked 49 or 50 in the rankings as the worst, or actually as the best place to do business. And so we need to do better.
That's right.
And that is why it's important to always have a business advocate at the legislature, which is what the chamber does. Ensuring that any type of impact is minimized So at the beginning of session, we go through the 2,000 or 3,000 bills and identify those that impact business.
And that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
There are a lot of legislators who don't read all the bills.
There's 76 legislators, so practically it's impossible for them to know the content
Absolutely.
of each bill. So that's why it's incumbent on the chamber to ensure that they understand how the bills will impact business.
Well, we overlap in terms of what my organization does and what the chamber does. The Grassroots Institute is a state think tank committed to promoting liberty and freer markets and individual and accountability of government. And there are areas in which I think you and I have actually seen each other down at the state legislature this year.
Yes, we have.
And one is quite interesting because it shows that what's on the surface doesn't always tell the story. For example, in the minimum wage bill, that's one in which on the surface it looks like we would be doing good for the poor or lower wage earners, and that businesses that won't raise the minimum wage would be doing harm. But I think you have a different story about that with the chamber.
Well, for the chamber, we felt that for this session, we just asked it was about informing them about the impact of the bill, and to ensure that if the inclination of the legislature was to pass a bill, to ensure that they spread out the increases and take into consideration some of the impact it would have on business. For example, one of the message that we delivered was Hawaii is the only state in the nation that has prepaid health care.
Yes.
And that is a huge cost in business. So when we did the calculation, it came down to about $9.75 per hour. That includes prepaid, based on the $7.25 current minimum wage. And so as it goes up to 1010, which is what the proposed language bill does, it goes up to actually $16.25, around there, per hour. So there is not the actual just wage increase, everything that's tied to it, such as prepaid, such as unemployment insurance, such as work comp, TDI, all mandates and costs that businesses have to cover.
So every little inching up is actually a lot more cost to a business. And so part of your role, in addition to advocating, is to educate legislators, educate the public as to what's really going to be the impact.
Correct, to provide more information so that they can make a more informed decision.
And I think that's an important thing, the provision of information. And you not only do this in terms of legislation, you do this in terms of public events. Like recently, I commend you on your event focused on the Federal Reserve. A good number of people were gathered in a public forum in which you brought representatives of the Federal Reserve, some local business leaders, and we learned about how that incredible institution has an impact on everything we do.
Correct. And that's what we're doing. In addition to our networking events after work, where members have an opportunity to meet one another and talk about their business, we also feel it's important to provide events that educate our members, to provide information on current issues so they can make informed decisions on their own. And so throughout the year, in fact, for this year, we had more than 60 events. We're planning for the next fiscal year already, and we're planning a number of events, but once again, it's a wide array of topics. A couple of that are coming up is one, State of Economy, where we're inviting different panelists from different industries to find out how the current economy is impacting their business. And we'll also have the Heroes, Carl Bonham, talk about his current results of the study. And the other event that we're very excited about is the State of Counties. As a statewide organization, we feel it's important to hear what's going on from the different counties. So we have all 4 mayors coming to speak to our membership.
Oh, that's wonderful.
For the first time. Yes.
You know, and a lot of times, the needs of counties, the role of counties in creating business climate are not really understood, because we have the federal level, very obvious to us, with everything, including the Affordable Care Act, and we have the state level, which is always front and center because we have all the legislators gathered together on Oahu. But sometimes we overlook the importance of counties. Why are counties and what happens in terms of their business policy important to the business climate here in the state?
Because their issues impact our state in general, right? What happens there. And there's business obviously across the state. And so whatever decisions they make, whether that they have this jurisdiction impacts business one way or another, whether it's through taxes or through infrastructure And so we need to be, the chamber needs to be, stay on top of those issues as well.
Sure.
And then hear from the different counties to see what we can do to ensure that we can continue to build the business climate in Hawaii.
I've recently visited a couple of chambers on the neighbor islands, and it was interesting to see that their discussions were a little different than the discussions we have here on Oahu. For one thing, the super ferry came up, and it's not a proposed piece of legislation. It's something a little bit in our past, but it's still being talked about. Not so much the super ferry, but the hunger to be able to do inter-county, inter-island competition with low-cost transportation and shipping and so forth. Is this the kind of issue that the chamber would give voice to when the counties come together and talk?
Absolutely. Anything that would impact commerce, the chamber takes a position on or tries to get involved in. But that's why we also work closely with our neighbor island chambers. In fact, on Kauai Chamber, they have a very active chamber, Maui, Hawaii Island, Konakohala, Molokai. And so we work with them closely to hear from them as to where they need support from the state chamber. And then also we communicate to them as to what's going on at the state legislature, because they can't have the regular presence at the state capitol, so we provide that support. And so over the years, we've built a very strong relationship in working together because we are in this together in building a better business climate.
Now, some issues go from island to island at times.
Yes.
A few years ago, the whole issue, for example, of genetically modified agriculture was on Oahu primarily, but then we saw it went to Kauai, and that became a major controversy. Then Maui's dealing with it. What role would the chamber play in an issue that tends to be controversial?
Well, the way we look at it is what kind of impact does it have on our economy and on jobs? And of course, we try to gather different perspectives and all the information needed to make an informed decision. And after we do make a decision, gather our different stakeholders to support, have the same position, and work together.
Yes.
And we need to do more of that. We need to collaborate with partner with other organizations, ensuring that there's a unified voice going out there and taking a position in a support or in opposition to an issue.
Well, what I like about the chamber, and which does line up with our values at Grassroots in terms of a freer market economy, is there is an unashamed commitment to the value of business. That when we talk about issues that affect people, like poverty, housing, and so forth, businesses make a huge difference. And if we stifle our businesses, we're not going to be able to have those human need outcomes. And so really, in many ways, the chamber accomplishes many human service and human need outcomes by supporting business, as opposed to hindering business or attacking business. Now, we were talking a little bit earlier about lists, and it's kind of a fun thing to monitor where Hawaii ends up on the list of 50 states. We don't do very well in terms of business climate issues, on tax policy, in terms of the relationship between state fiscal policy and businesses. What are some areas in which you think we could make some advance, in which we could work? We talked a little bit about how we could somehow moderate the rise of minimum wage so its impact isn't so great upon businesses. Are there some other areas that you may be working on in the chamber, that other pieces of legislation you were backing this term?
So this past session was the first time in chamber's history that we actually put together a business package to start making some movement, or to move the needle, so to speak. So we put a package of bills together and introduced it this past legislative session. And so to be more proactive rather than reactive to bills all the time, which we've done in the past, which is equally important, though, to ensure that bills don't pass that will impact and increase the cost of doing business. But this package, the goal was to start being more proactive, introduce bills that will make a positive difference on Hawaii's business climate, and to attract more business. And so we did, and we're still not at the last day of session, so things could turn around. And so by next week, we should know more or less what our outcome of our business package was. And even if it's just one or two bills that came out of the package, we're fine with that, because at least we're moving forward.
That's right.
And that's what we plan to do each business legislative session, is to introduce a business package. Whatever we can do to move the needle. In fact, this past year, last year, around October, we held an event And there's so many different business surveys out there, but one survey that we did look at was America's Top Places to Do Business, which is sponsored by CNBC. We actually had reporter Scott Cohn, who is the author of the survey, Skype in and talk to our membership and provide a detailed analysis as how he came up with the point system and how he ranked the different businesses. And obviously Hawaii was number 50. And so based on that though, now that we know where the points are allocated, we can at least try and come up with potential solutions to address those areas, whether it's low-hanging fruit or some that may take much longer to move the needle. But if we can start thinking that way and to see what we can do, then hopefully we can, there's no place else but to move up.
You speak of low-hanging fruit. What are some things we could do that you'd like to encourage legislators to look at, policymakers to look at, things that we could do to improve the business climate here, to make this place a better destination for investment, as well as a better place where small businesses can really win the game of doing business?
Well, one is mandates. Anytime there's any type of employment mandates, it increases the cost of doing business, right? And we look at it, is there an issue? And if not, then why have a bill passed? But two, we always hear from our members permitting issues.
Yes.
But what are those permitting issues? We need to hear from the business community in order to make changes. And so when we hear that, it's very broad in term, but we need to come down to the specifics. What are some areas in the statutes or in the rules, administrative rules, where we can change? And so that's why it's important for the business community to get more engaged in the legislative process.
Yes, and I noticed amongst your membership, you have the full political spectrum. You're not an organization committed to one political point of view. You have people who come together because they value the Chamber of Commerce, the 1,000 members, but they may not be with each other on every bill and so forth. So on a specific level and within the organization and also for the state, how do you manage political diversity and move forward even though there may be this diversity? That's
a very good question. So as you mentioned, we have 1,000 member companies, hopefully 2,000 by 2016, but 80% of our members small businesses, which according to our bylaws is less than 50 employees. But I would say...
And that reflects the landscape here in business in Hawaii.
But I would say many of our members are less than 20 employees. We have a very diverse membership from different industries. And so there are times where members will be on both sides. And so especially when it comes to legislation, we prioritize them. Which bills have the impact on most members? And those are the ones we tend to put in our top priority category. Then there's some that may impact some members, so we kind of look at the 80-20 rule. And while the bill may impact most of our members, may not impact most of the members, but impact a smaller percentage, we hope that our members can look at the broader scope and a broader picture as to what the Chamber's role is and how we've been very active on all issues. And the goal is to build a better business climate.
Well, you know, some of the issues you go forward with are not that difficult to win when legislators and others are educated, when coalition is built, and when the approach leaves politics behind. But some issues are a little more difficult to push because there is a political background to it. For example, minimum wage. That has a federal initiative from President Obama himself and a vision for the country. So in many ways, dealing with that issue is a little bit uphill. How in this state do we manage to make progress, you know, without becoming extremists, without becoming antagonists, but how do we bring parties along in order to do something that might not be politically that attractive at the time?
Well, ultimately, I believe it comes down to participation in the legislative process, regardless of your position. Getting your voice heard. A lot of times, at least we hear, and why should I get involved? It won't make a difference. It does make a difference. We've seen bills pass or not pass because a number of our members took a position and voiced their concern, contacted the legislators. We've seen that. So it does work. Is it easy? Not always. But without participation, you can't really make any progress. And that's why it's important, and we always deliver that message to our members, especially when legislative session starts. Get your voices heard, and we provide tools to get our members involved that makes it very easy to get their voice heard. But that's one way, and also to collaborate with other organizations, other stakeholders, and working together to see what issues. For example, there's some issues where labor and business can work together on. That would be good for business.
So finding
not good for business, but business and jobs and the whole economy and what's good for the state. And so those are the issues where we should be working together on.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and that's what we do at the Grassroots Institute. We look at what can be won, where labor and business and government and small business can come together and try to win on as many of those points as possible. Before we go to a break, real quickly, Hawaii has not been highly rated in terms of its attraction to foreign investment, and we need huge sums of capital investment in order to achieve some of our goals here. What are some things that can be done to improve our climate as a destination for investment?
So despite the fact that Hawaii is perceived sometimes as the worst place to do business, I believe Hawaii is also a good place to do business. First of all, we're a great state. We have a lot to offer.
Right.
We have lots of talent here. We have lots of different resources here. Clean energy. We're leading state in that area.
Right.
We are the center of the Asia Pacific region. Huge opportunity to attract foreign investors in investing in Hawaii or doing business in Hawaii. Another way is to bring more meetings here. For example, rather than Asian companies go to the mainland and take that several more hours to meet with someone in New York, why not come to Hawaii and meet here? Because we have that kind of environment that promotes collaboration, I think, through our aloha spirit. So there's huge opportunity. And we've heard from different companies who decided to start shop in Hawaii as a testing ground to see, because we are part of the United States, but yet we're so similar to the Asian culture that it makes most sense to start here, see how it works, and then expand to the mainland.
It sounds as though part of the role you play as Chamber of Commerce is to leverage the strengths that are here in Hawaii.
Absolutely.
And in a sense also to sell them to the rest of the world.
And I think we need to toot our horn a little bit more and
very good.
Promote what's good about Hawaii.
And make it even better.
And there's so much more. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Our guest today is Sherry Menor-McNamara, President CEO of Chamber of Commerce Hawaii. We'll be right back after this short message on E Hana Kako, which means let's work together on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. Aloha.
I'm Jay Fidel. That's Sharon Moriwaki of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. And every Wednesday we have Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. We've been doing it for some time now, and we have some fantastic guests on there, unbelievable guests who give us insight into what is going on in a very complex, sometimes very confusing, sometimes very disappointing area of progress in the state. So we love doing this. We love meeting them. We love talking to them. We love having their ideas out on the table. So maybe, just maybe, we can all make some sense of what's going on. Sharon, what do you think?
I think that's absolutely correct. We enjoy ourselves meeting with all these people and hearing about the energy and the state of clean energy, and hopefully we advance clean energy for the state. So it's terrific. Join us.
Okay, it's every Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday is Energy Day. Every Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, here on ThinkTech Hawaii. We'll see you there.
Welcome back to E Hana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. Let me tell you a little bit about what E Hana Kako means. I'm Keli Akina with the Grassroots Institute, and many people in Hawaii have heard the wonderful phrase, E Pule Kako, let's pray together. Well, E Hana Kako means let's work together. Let's work together for a better government, society, and economy. Now, who can fight with that? As long as we're not fighting, we can work together. And today, my guest, Sherry Menor-McNamara, is really the great orchestrator here in the state of Hawaii amongst businesses, creating a climate in which people will work together for a better economy, and in particular, a climate in which business succeeds and thrives so that people succeed and thrive. So, Sherry, it's been fascinating just listening to what you're doing in the chamber and so forth. Now, you have been with the chamber since November, is that right?
Actually, I've been with the chamber since 2006.
That's right. But as CEO?
Since September.
Since
yes.
September. And how's that path upward been for you? When you emerged on the scene, there was a lot of flurry in the news. Some of it was about you being the first woman CEO of the organization. Others others were about your own strengths and your connectivity to the business world. How have you enjoyed the last several months?
Oh, it's been an exciting ride so far. I take this job very seriously. It's a huge responsibility, but it's important for the state of Hawaii. I'm originally from Hilo, the Big Island.
All right.
I was raised there, moved away to college. I lived on the mainland for 8 years, Japan for 2 years, working for a variety of jobs. I moved back home in 2001 and decided, well, why not go back to school? So I went to law school and pursued my JD MBA. And during that time, I worked at the legislature as a committee clerk and as a legislative aide. And that's when I found my passion. Of all the jobs I had, I found this is what I want to do.
And what is that passion?
It's how public policy comes into the making.
Yes.
And it's just
how ideas become reality.
Exactly, and all the different stakeholders involved, and it's every bill will impact Hawaii in one way or another, and I just enjoyed that, and I knew that this is something I wanted to continue to do. Not quite work at the Capitol yet, but somewhere in that capacity. And so the chamber, a position at the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii came up in their business advocacy department, which is right up my alley, and I accepted it. Didn't know what lobbying was all about, but other than observing when I did work at the Capitol. And been there since 2006 and enjoying every single day. And I do have a very supportive membership and especially board that have given me the confidence to take this position on.
Sherry, you and I see each other from time to time because we hang out at some of the same places, and I'm always seeing you moving from one meeting to another meeting and so forth, yes. If I happen to catch you by a glance and so forth. What do you do with most of your time in the chamber? I would guess you meet with people.
Yes, there's been, my meeting schedule has doubled. My day usually starts at 3:45, 4 a.m. in the morning.
There you go. That's when you have a moment to yourself.
I do, and that's so important. You should get up, catch up on some of the news, see what's in different headlines all over the world. Then I get my exercise, got to get that in.
All right.
Then start my day, and it doesn't usually end until late into the evening because when I can't fit meetings into the schedule during the day, I usually schedule them into the evenings, especially during legislative session because, as you know, hearings get scheduled.
Absolutely.
A number of them through for the 4 months that the session is, the legislature is in session.
Now, may I ask you a little bit about chambers across the world? Recently, I had the opportunity to speak at the American Chamber in Hong Kong and learned that there are several American chambers elsewhere. What's the relationship between Hawaii Chamber of Commerce and these other chambers of commerce?
I think Chamber of Commerce is a universal term.
Okay.
There's Chamber of Commerce all around the world, and that's one of the initiatives, at least for our state chamber, that we would like to build upon, is to build our network around the world so that we can promote this kind of business connections from different parts of the globe, which is important to have that kind of global commerce going on. And for example, I just went to Japan in March. I was invited by Japan government to participate in some meetings with businesses as well as government and chambers of commerce. So when I met with these chambers of commerce, we talked story, and that's what some of the challenges are, and we're all similar. We have similar challenges, similar opportunities. And based on that, I felt the need, okay, we need to work more closely together and use our network so we can become that one system.
Well, what's interesting is we had on this very same program some guests from Korea, South Korea, who were, actually also from Japan, who were involved in their chambers and think tanks as well in Japan, talking about the same issues that we were talking about. And we were down at the legislature commenting on issues related to the general excise tax, its increase and what it applies to. And these friends from Japan were dealing with the same thing. They called it the consumption tax. And we're struggling with some of the same dynamics that we have here. Now let me shift gear a little bit back home. There are a lot of chambers that are built around communities, such as the Chinese Chamber of Commerce or the Filipino Chamber of Commerce and so forth. Tell me a little bit about these other chambers. How are they related to the state chamber, and what is the focus of these other chambers?
Right, so there's a number of chambers of commerce across the state, many of them regional, ethnic chambers as well. So all depends, and we're all independent, so we have our own membership, although some may overlap. But we try to work together when we can. A lot of the local, more ethnic chambers tend to have more the community events as well as cultural events,
Sure.
which is equally important to promote that kind of cultural understanding. And some of them have trade missions to promote the relationships as well as economic activity between the two states or nations. And so when we can, though, we try to work together. In fact, we just revived our Affiliated Chambers and Business Organizations Committee, also known as ACBO Committee, so that we can work more collaboratively. And so we understand what each chamber is doing and how can we work together to promote not only cultural understanding, but economic opportunity with our chambers as well as our counterparts across the world, around the world.
Yes, and I would imagine with such vitality in our chamber memberships and different chambers memberships across the islands, that there should be some way really to build our connection to the rest of the world. And what a great opportunity and what great potential. Do you see that potential being harnessed, or are there some challenges in terms of being able to really build the kind of attractiveness of our economics, our business climate here?
I see that as an opportunity, which hasn't been pursued actively.
Okay. You have such
And
an
so-
optimistic way of looking at things.
I do. I try. I mean, that's the only way in order to get things done.
And yes, and I'm with you with that
Yeah.
completely. But just if we pause for just a moment, what do you think some of the factors are that opportunity hasn't been as pursued as perhaps it should have been?
I think once again, is to identify how we can work together more
Okay.
effectively.
A commitment to that collaboration.
Exactly. Rather than doing things in silo and individually,
Yes.
but rather what can we do to promote our state of Hawaii together and not do it individually, like I said, because there's so many trade missions going on or different cultural events. But what can we do as a state to promote our economy as well as opportunities to organizations or businesses outside of Hawaii and tap into each other's resources?
Now, the history of our state in the 20th century shows a transition from a plantation culture and a culture of a small number of large companies to quite a bit of thriving small business today as well as part of the mix. But some people feel that mix isn't quite balanced, that business and government policy in Hawaii might favor perhaps some of the larger, more established businesses and labor as opposed to the growth of entrepreneurship and small businesses. Any thoughts on that very thorny subject I just brought up?
I think we're seeing more and more support in those different areas
Yes.
because, as we know, when the economy is down, our primary industries are vulnerable to them. And so I think more and more the state is realizing we need to do more to support different industries, right? But the question is which industry, because there's so many competing ones, whether we're talking about clean energy or for us, we try to promote manufacturing
Sure.
session because there is an existing industry there and also promotes Hawaii.
That's right.
And so there's different industries, and there's a lot of startup industries going on. In fact, Hawaii is considered one of the better places to start a company. It's more the tech areas
Right.
and R&D. So there's different opportunities there. But the challenge there is which ones should get more resources than the other. But the ones that are successful have a long-term plan, a vision, and are able to get people involved in the legislative process or
Sure.
be advocates of their industry.
Now, do you see a lot of opportunity in some of the shifts that have happened nationally? For example, we're preparing for a reduction of military spending, and military plays such a significant role in Hawaii. Does this create a certain kind of opportunity for the private sector to be moving in?
Well, for us, the Chamber of Commerce, we are the state liaison to the military,
Yes.
so that is a very important industry to us, not only for our organization, for our state. It's the #2 industry.
Right.
It brings in about $14.6 billion into our economy. And as you know, budget cuts, sequestration are inevitable, and it's happening, and we're already seeing some impact in our state. And so just most recently, the Chamber has reorganized their military affairs Council to make it more inclusive, to get more stakeholders in helping to support the industry here is in a post-Inouye world. As you know, Senator Inouye provides so much support and brought in so many dollars to our state that helped us provide many jobs to our local community. And so what we need to do is step up our game, become more proactive in ensuring military's presence stays in Hawaii. Because what's happening now is other states are committing dollars and support resources in attracting the military dollars to their state. And so we need to ensure that we're ahead of the game. So for us, that's important industry for the state of Hawaii.
Closing thought on tourism. We've got a couple minutes here.
Sure.
Obviously, that venerable long-term industry has great potential for us, but we can't take it for granted. What's the chamber doing to help us promote and develop that to its full potential?
Right, we cannot take it for granted. It will continue to be our #1 industry, and we need to provide the support and kind of support to ensure that it remains the #1 industry, and also to ensure that we provide that elevated experience to the visitors, because they could go elsewhere. So Hawaii already has its natural beauty and the attraction for visitors to come, but we need to ensure that they have a positive experience. So we need to be part of that effort, whether it's addressing homelessness or providing a good stay in Hawaii. But where the chamber comes in, and which is one of the areas we're working on with the Hawaii Tourism Authority, is their Meet Hawaii Elele program, which brings meetings and conferences to Hawaii. And so we haven't done that before, but we're very excited about this new initiative and working with them, because as we talked about earlier, there's chambers around the world, and why not work with that network in getting their members to come to Hawaii and bring their meetings.
Wonderful. Well, I'm looking forward to the Global Chamber Conference.
We're going to try hard to get that here.
Yes. Sherry, it's been wonderful chatting with you.
Thank
You're
you.
doing such important work. We have to work together to build our business climate here in Hawaii, and I thank you for what you and the Chamber of Commerce are doing.
Thank you so much, and I must say that I have a wonderful and fantastic team that I work with, and without them, we will not be able to do what we're doing now. So.
Well, very good. Thanks for what you do
Thank
for
you
Hawaii.
for your time.
We're going to take a quick break here as Sherry takes off to get down to deal with some important issues at the legislature. And then joining us will be the producer of ThinkTech Hawaii, Jay Fidel, for a little wrap and chat as we talk both about some of the issues Sherry and I have talked about here, as well as business in Hawaii in general. So please don't go away. Be back in 1 minute. This is Keli Akina with a Hana Kako on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network, and my guest has been Sherry Menor-McNamara, President CEO of Chamber of Commerce Hawaii. Aloha.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rafi. Every week, I'm right here at ThinkTech Hawaii, 3 p.m. on Mondays. My show is Boards' Bio Briefings. What do we do here? Well, we watch sperm swim. We see if they catch anybody. We check out the latest biosimilars. You know, the kind that, what was his name, the guy with the bicycle? I guess we forgot his name, but he was taking EPO and other human growth factors. We'll be talking about human growth factors. You want to know where to get some? Maybe I'll tell. Anyway, you can catch me, as I said, every week right here, Monday, 3 p.m., ThinkTech Hawaii, Dr. Rafi. You can also find me on Twitter, BioInfo Medical. Or you can catch me on Facebook, Dr. Rafael Boritzer. I'll be happy to converse with you. Aloha.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha and welcome back to Ehana Kako on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. Again, I'm Keli Akina with the Grassroots Institute. My guest today was Sherry Menor-McNamara of the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii. And now I'm delighted, in studio here, the man himself, the producer of the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network, Mr. Jay Fidel, for a few moments of wrapping up and chatting with one another. Aloha.
Aloha, man.
Jay, I'm glad you came to work today.
Well, I just came and I missed, your conversation with Sherry, and I'm here to check up on you, find out how it went, sort of debrief you afterward. I was outside talking to another prospective guest, a fellow named Joe Logan, who does the Food and Fuel Foundation. This is a nonprofit that he's organizing, very interesting, for a later time, though.
All right. Well,
while I was busy, what were
yes.
you guys doing in here?
Well, one thing we were doing is we were both celebrating, although I never mentioned it, the fact that both the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii and Grassroots Institute and several other organizations are promotional sponsors of your brainchild, which is the Downtown Forum. And so, although you don't have to pay me for the plug, why don't you tell our good folks here about the Downtown Forum? We had a great time this past Monday, was it?
Wednesday.
This past Wednesday, with a wonderful forum brought together at the Laniakea YWCA. About 100 business leaders in the community were there, and we had a panel that dealt with food, agriculture, and the new technology here in Hawaii. It was wonderful.
Yeah, well, every year we do something on agriculture, but for this particular luncheon panel program, we organized it around technology, the new technology in agriculture, based in large part on a program the Department of Agriculture put on about a month ago with the aquaponics farmers
yes.
In Hawaii. And, they had Alan Wong there, the chef, and he made tilapia, various kinds of tilapia dishes, which were excellent. This happened at KCC, at the Culinary Institute in KCC. And so we sort of took that forward and said, gee whiz, there's all kinds of new technology coming on. It's a combination of technologies. It's working. It could be commercializable. It's not just selling local food to restaurants that prefer to have local food or want to have it on the menu to, titillate people, but rather we could really export it.
That's right.
We could make, real local food for the world. And I see this as a real possibility. This could be a cornerstone in the new economy that we need to achieve, and soon. So anyway, that was a valuable program. Yes, almost 100 people showed up. Yes, we had, Dean Maria Gallo from the CITAR, College of Tropical
yes.
Agriculture and Human Resources. And we had, and she was in the paper this morning, Representative Jessica Woolley, chair of the
yes.
Agriculture Committee. And we had 6 panelists, count them, and we have a few special people came around, and you and I batted back and forth. And I thought it was a good program.
It was.
Everybody liked it. We used a live sift.
That's right.
Alex Burgo has sat in his chair many times here, and we saw his technology. So the whole thing came together very well. The next one, May 21st, and we'll work together on that one too. And that will be Kaka'ako. It's finally finding our future in Kaka'ako. Right. It's about time.
Here we are in this little region, right at the front door of Honolulu, slated for 37, is it? Business towers and condos. All of the conflicts that make us the luckiest place to live in the world are coming together as the different stakeholders representing environment, development, local, national, all kinds of interests, big business, small business are at play. It's probably the most controversial hotbed in Hawaii right now. And we're going to be bringing the stakeholders and major players in that whole issue together on a panel. We're going to let them say what they have to say, let the audience interact with them, and anyone coming to this downtown forum will be able to walk away and say, I get it. I know what's going on in Kaka'ako, and I got to ask the man. What's the date again?
May 21st.
Okay.
At Laniakea, the YWCA downtown on Richard Street. Starts at 11:30 for lunch, and then 12. We always do it the same way, 12 noon to 1:30, 90 minutes. You get concentrated information, find out what's going on. In this case, we're going to parade them through. We're going to have quite a few of them. They're going to give their little articles, so to speak, about from their vantage, from their stakeholder vantage, about what's happening, what should happen, what will happen. And I think, as you say, we'll get a good idea about how this whole huge, big, important process happening in the middle of the city, maybe in the jewel area of the city is going forward.
That's right. Well, we just finished a program with Sherry Menor-McNamara, the new president CEO of the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii. She's been named to the list of 10 to watch in 2014. She's received quite a bit of notice in terms of her convening of the business community together. And really, I think her whole approach in terms of saying that, yes, we've got problems, but we should see them as opportunities to build a better future for Hawaii is a wonderful, wonderful approach. What I wanted to ask you, Jay, was this.
Did you know that she used to be a host on ThinkTech?
Is that right?
That's true.
That's when we were in the old building.
True. Yes.
Okay, you know, that's what it was. I was wondering, where did this wonderful business person get her start? It was with Jay Fidel, ThinkTech Hawaii. So those of you watching, you know, great things come from ThinkTech Hawaii. But here's my question for you, Jay. What are some of the reasons that potential for Hawaii to be a major investment site, a major place for the building of entrepreneurial enterprises, a major place for the cultivation of small businesses and so forth, the launching of publicly traded companies and all that? Why have we had to wait until Sherry comes on board to get started to build that potential? Why haven't we really maximized that potential yet?
How much time do you have?
I'm asking you because you've been here long enough to know.
Well, just let me answer it in terms of a little talk that I gave this morning at the Career Training Institute, which is part of DOE, CTE they call it.
Part of the Department of Education, or
yes, the State Department. And that is, you know, we have a millennial generation coming up now. Sherry is, well, arguably part of it. It lives, at least spiritually, in Kaka'ako. It's coming together. Right now, I think it's young and fragile, and there's a tension as to whether it will survive or whether those 37 towers will, you know, displace it and neutralize it. I think everybody's money is on them. They want to see the millennials, you know, make it. And they want to see the millennials have political consciousness, which they don't now, but they will, and they're smart. And if they come around and realize that they can achieve something by hanging together and having an effect on the political process, we will have a new chapter in Hawaii, a new chapter in business, a new chapter in leadership, capital L leadership, and leadership is what makes the difference.
Are you saying in a sense that this business lull that we have is a generational thing in some ways, that we're waiting for the new leadership, the new generation to take the bull by the horns?
I wouldn't put it exactly that way. I think it's a long-term lull, you know. It's like that Jack Nicholson line. He's been in a bad mood for 40 years, you know, that kind of.
Right.
We've been in a lull for a long time, maybe since statehood. But, you know, enough of that. Now we got this generation who has to make their life here, or they believe they do. They don't want to leave town. They want to, you know, take their best whack at being right here and making this place work. And if they take that seriously, if they go forward with it, if they stay on it, you know, political will and all that, they can do it. And I like to encourage them to do it. Kaka'ako is the symbolic center of that. She's part of it. Conceivably, the Chamber of Commerce and all the, you know, heavy business guys, you know, the old-fashioned business guys in the Chamber will come along with this new generation, and we'll see a shift, hopefully soon.
Well, you know, that's hopeful, promising, because we're looking at Hawaii's greatest resource, and that is our keiki. And by keiki, I mean that in the broadest sense, the youngest generation driving business forward.
You and me were keiki, too.
That's right. We were
keiki of the land.
That's right.
Keiki
Oka'aina. That's right. And yet, structures have been in place a very, very long time. The political structure, for example, the union structure. And many of these obviously came into existence to meet a need. Sometimes structures remain after the needs have been met, for long after they've been met. And do you think that some of these, for example, our protectionist Jones Act, which limits the shipping to Hawaii and so forth, do you think that these structures are going to hinder the effectiveness of the next generation being able to get off the ground?
No, I'd put it the other way, actually. Do you think the next generation is going to hinder these structures?
Well, I hope so.
And I sure hope they do. It's time we took a look at that. It's time we applied some critical thinking. And I believe the millennial generation is capable of that. we have to encourage them to do it. We have to encourage them to look under the Jones Act, for example, pry it up, change it, make it work for Hawaii. Great opportunity for this generation. They just got to get aware. And that's what, not necessarily that issue, but that's where ThinkTech comes in. We want to raise awareness about that. We want them to know what's going on, apply their thought process, and then take action of one kind or another. Be involved, engaged. We have the worst voting record in the country. Isn't that nice? We've got to change that. We've got to get people to think that they are responsible for their own community welfare, get involved, not just following, blindly, not lemmings to the sea, but actually applying their thought process and making good, good common sense decisions at the ballot box and in public speaking. I think everybody ought to write letters to the editor all the time. Everybody ought to, write and speak and voice his opinion the way you do, the way people here on ThinkTech do. This is really important. It's that picture, the freedom of speech.
Norman
Rockwell hanging on our wall. Is that everybody should get up and participate in the democratic process. We've lost some of that. So, Keli, it's up to you and me to regain it.
Well, I'm inspired listening to you. Are you going to run for office, Jay?
No, but I'm hoping you will on my account.
Well, we'll do whatever we do together, and we want to inspire the next generation, because really it's the next generation that's going to take Hawaii to a new level. It wasn't long ago, really, when young Dan Inouye returned on the GI Bill after World War II, got his legal education and joined others in the shaping of Hawaii for an era. I think we're at that time again now when young people can shape Hawaii for the next era. So what a wonderful opportunity, and that's what ThinkTech Hawaii stands for. Jay, thanks for being here on ThinkTech Hawaii.
You're welcome. Thank you, Keli. Nice to be with you.
I'm Keli Akina with the Grassroots Institute, and when I'm here with you on Ehana Kako, we're on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. Go to our website, www.thinktechhawaii.com. Watch shows that we've put on. In fact, Jay Fidel presides over the production of, 20 hours of content every week? A lot.
Some of it.
Some of it. Some of it's good, too. Actually, all of it's good. We hope we'll see you next week. Aloha.
Aloha.